Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on India's national television channel Doordarshan about Indian foreign policy, India's international relations and key constituencies around the world that have a stake in India's rise. Viewers, in this special episode, we are looking at the Indian diaspora and its significant contributions to the growth and the visibility of India on the world stage. I have with me a very select elite group of 27 outstanding journalists, media professionals and mass communication specialists from 11 countries who belong to the Indian diaspora. And they are being hosted by the Diaspora Engagement Division of the Ministry of External Affairs of the Government of India and are on India familiarization visit. So it's an honor for me to be hosting such a special set of participants in this show to talk about diaspora India links and also how to project India's image around the world, how India is perceived in their respective countries and what more we can do to make this diaspora and motherland bond stronger. So let me mention the countries to which this unique set of participants belong to. We have professionals from Fiji, Indonesia, Israel, Kenya, Malaysia, Mauritius, New Zealand, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago. Just look at the breadth of coverage right here. It's a microcosm of our diaspora, 32 million strong people of Indian origin spread all over the world, and this, as I said, is a special subset of that great Indian diaspora. Folks, welcome. So I'll start with the most obvious question, which is identity. You know, for the diaspora, that's a very central issue. And you know, you have your legs in two boats. You are here in your ancestral land and you're visiting the place and seeing, revisiting it maybe if you believe in rebirth and karma and all those things. And on the other hand, you have your country of domicile, where you have citizenship, where your forefathers have gone, immigrated over generations or centuries and have made it their current home. So how important is Indianness or this sense of belonging to this civilizational construct called India for all of you? You know, I'd like to open by talking about that aspect, the emotional and the cultural linkages, because that is the basis on which we can talk about, you know, what else is happening and how we can deepen the bonds. But to start with, as an individual, as a media professional, as someone who's been seeing India from afar, but now you are here in India, what does this land mean to you for your heart and soul? Would anyone want to come in on that?
Thank you for having us here, sir. My name is Revital Moses. I am from Israel. So Israel is a melting pot of cultures. So like every Jewish ethnicity from all around the world, there is an Indian diaspora of about 100,000 Indians in Israel. And like every ethnicity, like you said, the Indianness, I like to call it the desiness,
Yes.
is very important to us. We are very well rooted in our culture. We speak Indian languages, we dress up in Indian attire, and of course, also cook and eat and share our culture with other people. It's very interesting because Israel is a very unique nation, and it's, again, like I said, it's a melting pot. I was recently invited to a Lakshmi Puja for Diwali, which was very special. There's a big, not just Indian Jewish, but also the Jewish Indian community. So they're like,
we have some immigrants, recent
yes,
arrivals.
Also immigrants, a lot of Indian students who come to study. There's a lot of professionals from the construction industry, the caretaking industry. So it's amazing. And in general, the Israeli community is a big fan of India. A lot of the Israelis after the army service come to India, so they're very, very
as tourists, huh?
As tourists, and also like, they come as backpackers because they want to go to Himachal and explore and like have their peace of mind. So they very much love it, and we love to share it with them as well. So we're very, very rooted in our culture.
Thank you so much. So viewers, our friend from Israel is talking about the fact that there have been waves of Indians who have gone to Israel over, you know, since its creation, or even before that, you know, since antiquity. Actually, there's been movement and connection between India and West Asia or Middle East, and Indian community in Israel is strong and is culturally very expressive, and you can see that in what we just heard. Anyone else wants to come in from other parts of the world about the Indian identity and what does it mean to you, and how are you able to manage the two? I mean, many of us, there is the ones who look at the diaspora studies, for example, they often talk about the mixed identity or the confusion. Is there confusion, or is it all sorted? Now we have dual citizenship. You can also hold, a person of Indian origin status and while being citizens of other countries. Anyone else wants to come in on the Indianness aspect? Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you so much for having us. I am Mehak from Kenya, and we have quite a strong Indian population. Maybe just to comment on the whole confusion thing.
Yeah.
I actually made a documentary on South Asians in Kenya, and we were exploring the themes of identity, what it means to actually be Kenyan Indian. There's a kind of, for me, a duality in the sense that I'm born and brought up in Kenya. That's my home. That's where my grandmother and everyone was born. So for me, Kenyanness is important, but I've also grown up influenced by Indian culture that we have at home. We speak exclusively in Hindi or Marwari at home. We visit gurdwaras, we go to mandirs, we celebrate all the festivals. So there's always that kind of balance that you have to maintain between your Kenyanness and your Indianness, or any of us who are from the diaspora. We always find ourselves kind of on a seesaw game. What identity are we going to balance? And it's nice. It's nice to have a home in two different places, but it also gets a little difficult in the sense that back home, not everyone will accept us thinking we're not Kenyan or not Israeli or Fijian or New Zealand enough, right? But then when we come to India, because of maybe how we speak, the changes in our, when I speak Hindi, I can't say the ara properly. So then over here, it becomes a thing of ye bhar wale. So there's always going to be that. But I think for us, it's how you continue to integrate both cultures. So integrating Kenyan and Indian cultures is kind of how a lot of us back home have found a balance. And we're actually quite big in business in back over in the country, agriculture, healthcare. And our community was actually recognized as the 44th tribe back in 2019 in Kenya. So there's that acceptance now there. And there's also a very strong India-Kenya relation that's being formed. So now it feels like, home on both sides. I don't really have to teeter much. Yeah.
Thank you. So brilliant. We have a large community of Indian diaspora in East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa also. And they are, like our friend from Kenya is saying, quite dynamic, and they're, at the forefront and the avant-garde of many of the arts, the cinema, the, cultural expression, civil society, government, you name it, professional class, news media, they are all so doing so well, and we are so proud of them. And it's good to see how they're managing this so-called identity confusion or contradiction, and that it probably is not a contradiction anymore. Okay, so viewers, this, like I told you, this is a group of journalists and editors and media professionals. So let me take them into their home domain now. Yeah, let's talk about the news media landscape. During this visit, the participants have gone to some of the most prominent media organizations and news agencies of the country. So today they are in Doordarshan, the national broadcaster, but they have also visited the Asian News International, a very important private wire agency of India, and the Press Trust of India, another very important body that disseminates news and information, not only domestically but worldwide. So let me ask the group, some among them, to come in and talk about what they are seeing, the way journalism is being done in India today, what you have witnessed so far on this trip, and what impression does it give you? How is it compared to television or print or electronic or digital media in your own country? Have you seen similarities or differences? Are we doing something which may be of use for you to take back home in terms of good practices that you may have observed, and vice versa? Do you think there's something we can improve by picking up some innovations that you're doing? Because the news media is in a great flux. You'll all agree with me on that, especially with the internet and with the digital and with all these self-broadcasting phenomena happening. Traditional media are under threat also and are facing circulation and viewership issues. So what are you seeing, and can you talk as media professionals, as journalists, so far what you've seen in India, and what is your impression and what we can do to exchange notes on this matter? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, I'm Sivagami from Malaysia. I'm working as a journalist from Bernama News Agency. It's similar to your PTI here. And when our visit to PTI, I found that their working style 99.9% seems like us.
Okay.
Okay, and basically we don't have newspaper. We are we are distributing news through online. So we have our own subscribers from various press, and we have a lot of clients which are they paying monthly fees or yearly payment. And basically I think when you write a story, you must check your fact, because it can trigger the world. So make sure you write something which is you must check your fact, and you must get us information from the correct source, so that it won't, it can create a peace and harmony, especially when you deal with multiracial people. So in Malaysia we have Chinese and Malay and Indians and Sikh people, and our languages are different. But in Bernama we using Tamil and Malay, English and Mandarin. So basically we are giving a priority to all languages and all race in Malaysia. So when I compare with PTI, I see they are basically same with the Bernama News Agency. So that is my comment on that.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, Malaysia again, Southeast Asia, that's one big clusters. Malaysia, Singapore, we have large number of Indian diaspora, and again they are thriving in the media, and opinion makers. They're shaping the news and the discourse in their own countries. It's a matter of pride for us that our diaspora is doing that, and happy to hear the similarities between Bernama and PTI. Yeah, I think should all be up to global standards. We are all striving, especially developing countries. Due to lack of resources, we have never been able to invest in high quality production the way you see internationally, like an Al Jazeera or a CNN, or a BBC. But we are trying our best, and I think we are slowly scaling up. And I hope that this visit you are all able to pick up something from the way we are doing media, and also see if it can be adapted. Any other thoughts on the news media scene, what you have seen? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Sumira from Mauritius. India's media landscape has been incredibly amazing, I can say. Talking from the KEDA project and the side project, and today coming till present for in the digital era, I think India has gone very far, very developed. But if I see Doordarshan, I'm from the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation, and our work is pretty much the same, like accuracy and the way I can see your cameraman and your journalist going. So I was like, oh, this is like Mauritius. But what I can say is the speed while visiting. We visited PTI and ANI. So it was, I can see that you're very, the speed is very high. Like you have journalists across the country, more than 1,000 journalists.
Yeah.
And the diversity, like the wider range that you have, to reach decentralized news, like local news, reporting on local news. This is very interesting, like rather than concentrating on major cities, big news. So this is very interesting. And another thing is the decentralization, like how you have mixed the traditional journalism with the new technology. So this is very important. I think this is one thing that we are going to take back with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Our friend from Mauritius talking about what India is doing in the media landscape, and viewers, again, this is important. Indian Ocean neighboring country, extended neighboring country. Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius are very important for us strategically also, and we are happy to see that there are practices that could potentially be adapted from our media to theirs and vice versa. We also are entering into a lot of these information sharing agreements with broadcasters and with news agencies of other countries, so that we can have content that is usable by both sides. And in fact, that is how we build our own narratives, because historically we've been so reliant on the Western agencies like Reuters or AP or AFP only, So it's a historic task, and we are all part of that movement, and I thank you for that. Okay, so we spoke about the media landscape, but let me now come to the way India is seen and projected in your news media, in your countries. Obviously, some of your countries, the Indian diaspora is huge. Some of you are like diaspora countries in itself, right? Like Mauritius is like that, right? But you have countries in which the Indian diaspora is not the majority, like in Sri Lanka, right? And so on. So let's talk a little bit about how India is being portrayed, developments inside India, or what India is doing around the world. Sometimes you hear a lot of negative, coverage coming from Western media, which is slanted and is very ideological. I am sure that that's not the case in these countries that are represented here. So can someone come in on and talk about, and especially because you're from diaspora, you're like wearing a dual hat, right? You're not just a media professional working for an agency or an institution in your country, but you're also people of Indian origin, right? So you are like, in a way, you can actually also shape the way India is projected if you have editorial control and involvement in the narrative and the way the discourse is created. So would someone want to come in and talk about India as it's being projected on a daily basis or whenever it makes the news? Does it get enough coverage? Does it get enough positive coverage? And what are the kinds of things about India that is being spoken about in your country? I hope it's not only bad things. I mean, in a big country like this, 1.5 billion, huge continent-sized country, something or the other will go wrong, right? I mean, you can expect, but is that the only thing you're hearing, or are you also hearing positive things about the country? And let's talk a little bit about that. Would anyone want to come in, please? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, I'm Chavi from Mauritius. So as many of you are aware, Mauritius and India has a close and long-standing relations. So as in Mauritius, we have 70% of Mauritians are from Indian origin. So it is very important for us to stay in touch with whatever is going on in India and to show our people in Mauritius how India is supporting Mauritius in terms of different projects, infrastructure, health, transport. So in the media, it is very much talked about how Mauritius gains help and support from India. And this is done through print, electronic, digital. And I am from the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation. And we are still trying to adapt to social media, but it's very much talked about on television itself and on the radio and on our websites. So in Mauritius, we have different centers. We have the Indira Gandhi Cultural Center. We have the World Hindi Secretariat in Mauritius. We have the Mahatma Gandhi Institute. So whenever a special day is commemorated for India, for example, we have journalists posted in these events. And this will dominate the news, be it in newspaper, private newspapers, public, for us, the MBC. This dominates the news for the day. So it's very important for us to show that. And I would like to say that in a nutshell, India is important to Mauritius, and this is reflected in the way we treat news. And how we can improve the news coverage, how we can give better coverage, is through programs like this, like the Know India program, where you have journalists coming, because this will help us discover India, the cultures, the institutions, what's done. We take that knowledge here, we bring it there, back home, and we're able to write better and treat news better when it comes to talking about India. So yeah, that's what I want to say. And we also had the IIMC, who used to give trainings to journalists across across the globe, and Mauritian journalists were part of it as well. So this really helped us not only refine our own skills, like add on to our own journalistic skills, but also how to treat news, how India treats news, how we can borrow that from you. Just like Sumara said, you guys are just going on, you have so many journalists everywhere, so how can we adopt some of these skills? So yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Viewers, our friend from Mauritius is talking about training initiatives and skill sharing and exchange that helps to build the media environments in her country, through Indian programs. And of course, the Know India program of the Ministry of External Affairs is a very critical one. and we bring journalists and social media influencers from around the world for them to see with their own eyes the transformation that's happening in the country. And talking of transformations, friends, you are visiting many places in India, and this Know India program, this edition, you are also going to Mumbai, and you're going to be seeing the longest sea bridge that India has built. It's called the Atal Setu, and it's a recent development. And you're going to see one of the most cutting edge or advanced Indian infrastructure, and modernization examples while you are in Mumbai. And you're also seeing many other institutions here, like a friend from Mauritius was saying. So this side of India, this aspect of India, are you surprised, or because sometimes I hear from diaspora who are visiting that, we have been told that there is a certain type of India, ancient civilization, great heritage. I know you're also seeing those historical monuments, but I'm talking about this ultra modern and can-do type of India that we are seeing. In the last 10 years, the kind of infrastructure modernization this country is witnessing is incredible. The kind of like square kilometers of highways and roads and bridges and tunnels and all these sorts of things that are being built, to enhance economic growth and to make people's life easier. This is one of the big achievements of India, I would say, in the last 10 years. So there, when you're going to be seeing all this, you're in Delhi right now, and you're also seeing what's been happening in the country. Are you coming out of a time warp, or did you already know about this by being journalists or from previous visits? I'd like to know, is this an eye-opener, or has something surprised you already, or is it making you rethink your the image of India in your mind? Anyone would like to come in and what you have seen so far? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Pranav from Mauritius. So I work at the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation. So I would say that the recent developments that have been going on in India, it has not been surprising, because we all know that India is a land of great resource. So working at the MBC, or like my colleague Chavi said, we cover the news about India a lot. It pretty much dominates the news when there are big events and big developments. So these developments, I would say, have inspired us in Mauritius. I would say inspired the media, inspired the government as well, because like you talked about the Atal Setu bridge in Mumbai, there has recently been a bridge opened in Mauritius, which is one of the tallest bridges in the southern hemisphere. So I would say that same for the metro. Since the metro has the first metro line that was opened in India was in Delhi. Some years later, we got the metro in Mauritius as well. So I would say that these developments inspire very much the Indian diaspora, the countries with Indian diaspora around the world. And people in Mauritius, like we just talked before, are very much aware of what is happening in India, the developments, especially under the prime ministership of Mr. Narendra Modi. How fast things are changing, we are very much aware of that. And this, I would say, it makes us proud, even though we are not Indians as such to say, but we are people of Indian origin. It makes us very proud, I would say.
Thank you. And no, you're wrong. You are Indian, because our Prime Minister says we don't look at the color of the passport. We look at the blood that's flowing in all of us. We are all Indians. And in fact, whenever he addresses the diaspora globally, including in Mauritius, he starts off calling them Mere Pyare Deshwasiyo, meaning you are all actually part of the civilizational India. You may not hold the Indian citizenship. And that diaspora diplomacy aspect also, viewers, our friend from Mauritius is just talking about the infrastructure that's happening on the ground there. And many of these projects in all these countries are supported by Indian technical and development assistance. So if we are able to do large scale infrastructure projects, of course, people say that China is the giant in this and they do much bigger, gigantic, infrastructure. But India is also doing so, especially in extended neighborhood and neighboring countries. And we have our own approach to doing all these things, which is quite different from the Chinese model. And we also do the skill building and the capacity building, human resource trainings and all these things. So if you were to look at that, what has already happened in your countries, Indian support and Indian assistance, and what that means for your country, and how do people back home perceive the kind of projects which are supported by the Indian government, be it like the vaccines we did during the COVID-19 pandemic, or these big construction projects that we are talking about. What is the impression that gives, not just, I'm not only talking of the diaspora, but even the non-diasporic people in your respective countries, the quote-unquote the local or the other tribes in your country, or the other ethnic groups. What does that convey, and how proactive do you see India doing these things in your country? Would anyone want to come in? Yes, please.
Bula Vinaka, namaste. My name is Riamala. I'm from Fiji. India and Fiji, they have quite a long relationship in terms of endangered system, whereby the ancestors from India went to Fiji to work as endangered laborers, and they make up our second population. And we had a lot of agreements between the Indian government and the Fijian government in terms of the Indian government will be helping Fiji in terms of building the 100-bedded super specialty hospital, whereby it will help us in terms of our infrastructure development, healthcare facilities. And back in those days, like Fijians, they are the indigenous people of our country. They have a perception that Asian India time, where poverty, less development. Now seeing it, like we have journalists, we have a quite broad thinking of how India is developing, but they don't have that kind of perception. So I think coming here and seeing what is happening is quite a big for me, because for me back then I can go and write reports like India is not that. And in terms of sustainable development, where G20 summit that has happened later, I think it is giving a better perception on how India is promoting development in terms of technology, sustainable development, and that can also support people who are living in poverty to stand up, have some kind of employment, and secure a better life for them. And I think this is a great initiative that India is taking in terms of moving ahead, but also with their people along, because some of the other countries, they also only focuses on development, not about the people. But I think that India is in a great path, and I think India and Fiji, they have a better relationship. So that's all.
Thank you so much. Viewers, our friend from Fiji is a important diasporic country in the Pacific, and we engage now with all the Pacific Island nations, including Fiji, in a very systematic and structural way. We have a forum for dealing with all the Pacific Island nations, and we are paying greater attention to this region. In the Modi era, there's been a lot of work to build the bridges, literally and figuratively, with these small island nations. And I'm happy to hear that our friend from Fiji thinks that the infrastructure development that's happening and the growth that's happening is also people centric, because ultimately that should be the goal, rather than just the rich becoming richer and wealth just concentrating in a few hands. And our approach has also been consultative generally with all the smaller neighbors, including the diaspora countries. We ask them what are their needs, and on that basis we try to structure these projects. Anyone else from any other part of the world would want to come in on Indian the development assistance and the projects that we are doing, and how the local people see them? Yes, please.
I am from Ramakrishnan from Sri Lanka. Of course, we have a rich culture between Sri Lanka and India. We have over 1 million Indian origin in Sri Lanka. So I would disagree. Earlier you said, we have a small kind of small people in our country.
It's not a majority.
Yeah, we have majority over 1 million. And when you compare with the projects and all, when you come to in Sri Lanka, everyone know during the COVID, India has helped a lot to Sri Lanka in medically. Even though during our economic crisis, India is the first country, the neighboring country who came to help us. So it's we have a traditional friendship between us. Always India there for you, they are there for us, and we have a good diplomatic relationship between India and Sri Lanka. And compare with the infrastructure, you said India is supported in the railway system in northern part of our country. So they recently built. And when it comes to the upcountry, we have a majority Indian community, Indian origin people, right? So but nowadays, India have supported for the housing system, housing scheme 2 years before they started. So almost like 3,000 to 4,000 houses. So yeah, we have to say thank you first for our country, neighboring country.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you from Sri Lanka. You know, he's talking about the social impact of Indian assistance, and that is very critical. Like we spoke before, also, what we are doing in all of these countries where there is a diaspora presence is to spread the benefits and make sure that whatever we do has a real impact on ordinary people and the communities. That has been our approach, and I hope our friends will write and broadcast and cover more of these projects. Sometimes the criticism we get is that, oh, Indians, they do a lot of good assistance work and aid projects, but then they don't get the publicity enough, and they don't get enough coverage. But this kind of positive word of mouth will definitely help. Okay, now let me also switch to other places you are visiting during this tour of India, and other things you are seeing. For example, you're seeing the Ayurveda Institute, for example, right? And you are also seeing, like I mentioned, the historical sites and monuments. There's a mix of old and new also in many of these initiatives. We've got a full ministry for promoting traditional Indian knowledge, including Ayurveda, yoga, and many other things. So this has become part of our soft power, traditional medicine, traditional knowledge, and we are also engaging with all these countries to try and promote these the heritage, the inheritance of our ancestors, our common ancestors, who are geniuses and who did extraordinary things. So how significant are these softer forms of Indian presence and influence in your countries? And of course, our embassies and high commissions with whom I'm sure you engage, they organize the yoga day and all those things which are quite popular. But even otherwise, like at a broader scale in the society, not only diaspora but non-diasporic communities in your societies, how deep is the knowledge or understanding of the Indian practices and ancient wisdom? And do you think that seeing these kind of things here will help you? Maybe you can make a story or a news report about what you saw. And often I hear many people coming to India for medical tourism from these countries and saying that, we didn't even know about these practices, but now we know that there are alternative treatments and such things, right? So healthcare, especially in healthcare. So would anyone want to come in on these aspects and what you've seen in your countries, and how much consciousness is there in your country about that this is a gift or a gift to humanity that came from the civilization, great civilization called India? Would anyone want to speak about our knowledge systems, yoga and other things?
Hello, my name is Shania. I'm from Fiji. So speaking about yoga and Ayurveda, we did visit the institute just about way back in my country. We have this, if we speak about disease, mostly people go for medical treatment. But we have been having our Indian embassy, we have yoga day as well. Speaking about our communities, the kids nowadays, they are not into yoga. If we speak about elders as well, they're not into yoga. But the Indian embassy, they bring a lot of people together at one park. They have over 1,000 people there. That particular day, they do yoga. It's more like raising awareness. Us media gang, that's our responsibility to cover this and raise more awareness. So the visit to the institute, it was an eye-opener for me, because that is something we don't have in our country, especially the institute itself. So that is more like understanding what it is and telling other people that there are options available, because from Fiji itself, we have a lot of people coming to India for treatment, whether it be any kind of treatment. So for some, it's quite expensive as well. They do a donation thing, they do charity work, they raise funds to come to India for treatment. But saying that we have other options too, that'll be helpful as well, because we know that there's high chance of survival and high chance of having a success rate as well. So just about having more awareness in this regard, and as media we have a responsibility to raise awareness about these things so that people out there know. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Our friend from Fiji is talking about responsible journalism and projecting the strengths of India in these countries. Viewers, very important. It cannot only be the job of our embassies and high commissions, although they do a lot of hard work also. It's also these diaspora media professionals are also vectors through which the word can spread, and that is of course the key logic why the Ministry of External Affairs engages and brings such groups to India to see for themselves. Anyone else would want to come in about Indian soft power, our music, our dance, our cinema? These are huge, right? And they influence popular perceptions about India in your countries, and they're immensely popular, and I'm sure you are all also avid followers of these things. So are we doing enough to for people to get into these things, or do we think we should come up with any new ideas or suggestions on how we can spread these kind of soft power instruments in your countries, and how can they become more acceptable in your countries?
Kia ora, I'm Neelam from New Zealand. My current master's research is actually on the New Zealand Indian identity and Bollywood cinema. So I've studied Bollywood films and the soft power that they project overseas and outstand. In our country back home, there's a lot of perception of India as still being a post-colonial nation freshly, and we become journalists to tell stories. Like, we grew up, even in India, traditional methods of storytellings. I grew up listening to stories from my ba telling me how India is. So with storytelling and communication, we're able to project these narratives and tell people about India. India chan pe pahunch gaya hai, but people still think we aren't developed, we aren't modern. But when I look at the comparison between New Zealand and India, so I visited India last year after a decade, and I was amazed about the technology, the digital payment system, the initiatives being taken to develop India further. A lot of these things, we don't have them back home as well. What I think needs to happen about India's soft power is there needs to be more cultural exchange and education and dialogue happening. I work at a university in communications, and recently we hosted the High Commissioner of India to New Zealand, Miss Neeta Bhushanji. She came onto campus and she gave a brilliant speech. People were floored listening to the speech. She talked about India's influence in technology, infrastructure, manufacturing, all these different sectors. Staff, academics, students listened to that lecture, and they were amazed, because people aren't aware that India has reached that growth. So programs such as this, like the Ministry of External Affairs, are great because they foster cultural engagement. But while we're here, maybe allow us to also exchange with our high commissions and embassies and foster those ties more strongly. So we're bridging the gap between both, because we walk between two worlds. We have our foot in two different worlds, and it's a balancing act, like you say. But we're able to navigate these areas through our cultural identity. So we would be great ambassadors and advocates for it.
Thank you so much. Here's our friend from New Zealand. He's talking about the fact that Bharat Chand par pahunch gaya, meaning we have landed on the south pole of the moon, which no country has managed to do. So there's certain extraordinary things this country has done, and that is also helping to change the perception that it's poor and backward and is still a quote-unquote a post-colonial nation. So I think that transformation story, that image, from being a quote-unquote a third world to a leading country or a leading power in the world, that's something that we are also trying to project through Doordarshan, our national broadcaster. But ultimately it has to be from the bottom up, from all these countries where people believe and actually come and see for themselves the transformation that's happening. Viewers, we have so far talked about diaspora and how India is perceived in their countries and all that, but a very important element of this whole diaspora engagement is the government to government also. Let's also talk a little bit about that. At the level of our political leaderships, in the Narendra Modi era, the diaspora especially has gotten the highest priority in our foreign policy. It was never there before. And even the die-hard opponents of Prime Minister Modi will accept that the diaspora engagement, that's been done since 2014 is unmatched. So, in that context, I want to bring you all in. How important are the top level, the political friendships and the relationships and the personal chemistry that our leadership and your leadership have built? Of course, in India, there's been a lot of continuity. This is the 11th year of Prime Minister Modi, and for foreseeable future, he is very much there. But in your case, in some countries, there have been like elections and changes and new people coming in. But what we have tried to maintain is, irrespective of these turnover of power, all of you are journalists and you cover politics, you know what I'm talking about. This, sometimes it's like a revolving door. Every 4 or 5 years, there's a new prime minister or new president coming in. How important are those, the G2G, as we call it, government to government? And you must have covered Prime Minister Modi's visits to your country, many of you, and you have seen firsthand also how your presidents, prime ministers are engaging with our leaders, how our external affairs minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is so popular worldwide, and he engages with his counterparts in your country, your foreign ministers, your defense ministers, and so on. So, can we talk about that aspect and what you are seeing coming from the Indian side into your countries, and that high level goodwill at the political level? How important is that for all these other people to people and the diaspora and all these things we are talking about so far? In a way, I think without the political facilitation at the top, if there is a lot of friction, let's say, if there is conflict between our countries, it's not possible to do all this, right? So, how important is that? What have you seen at the political level, the relations between our countries? Would anyone want to come in? Yes, sir, please.
I am Logeshwaran from Sri Lanka. So, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, we have a beneficiary with the neighborhood first policy. Many occasions like COVID and economical crisis, also in the some political crisis time and all. India was standing with Sri Lanka with their neighborhood first policy. Also, they are assisting for many facts to resolving the problem for the Sri Lankan, especially with Indian origin people. So always we believing the South Asia superpower was India. So always they are with us for to any crisis or anything will happen. Immediately they are with us and they do best for their neighbors. With this also they are exchanging their skills with the governance sectors. Also they are exchanging that good governance policies. All these things are changing our countries. Some part like they are managing project, some diplomatical things and all are developing with Indian collaboration. So we believing that neighborhood first policy and all, we are one of the big benefiter with that. So we are very thankful to be that.
Thank you. Sri Lanka, very, very, very vital country for us. It's one of our closest neighbors, both geographically, culturally, and historically. And thankfully, the war has ended, and now they're in a post-war era. And Indian, support has been there. Our friends, our journalist friends from Sri Lanka, talking about that, and the impact we are able to see. Neighborhood first is an important policy initiative of the Modi era, and it's being appreciated. There are a lot of beneficiaries on the ground, as we just heard from our friend from Sri Lanka. Friends, there is let me take you towards the end of the show to what you are going to take back from this visit. One thing, meaning things you are seeing, you are experiencing, you are interacting with Indians from different walks of life. What is it that how will you redo your news broadcast or your reel or your social media post or your next newspaper column or whatever other media you have to express your views and thinking? What have you seen on this trip, so far, and how is this changed you as a person, if at all, or maybe reconfirmed your core beliefs that you already have? Can we hear from some of you who haven't spoken about this aspect as to what you are going to take back? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm Anusha from Singapore. So first of all, I would like to really say that I'm feeling very honored to be, taking part in this Know India program, because this is such a commendable initiative organized by the Ministry of External Affairs. So talking from the Singaporean context, Tamil is one of the official languages in Singapore, and most of the Tamil youngsters, they feel very hesitant to talk in their mother tongue. So this is probably due to the stereotypes that it has been actually showcased. And I feel that the major takeaway for me through this trip will be India is not what you think or you've been thinking so far. So for the younger diaspora friends in Singapore, the Indian diaspora friends, they have mixed reactions. Some of us get very close to our culture, some of us a bit distant. And yes, we do obviously, embrace the roots, the cuisines, the tradition and everything. But I feel that initiatives like the Know India program will be able to bridge those gaps and also foster connections with people from all walks of life. Like for myself, I've actually, I've met so many people, through this program in some countries which I always wanted to, pay a visit and stuff like that. So the major takeaway for me is India is, drastically progressing. And, its rapid economic growth has actually, made itself as an emerging source of global power. So I'm definitely going to do like a feature story on this from when I get back home. And there's like so many positive things that I have, to tell my editorial team as well. So thank you so much to the Ministry of External Affairs for giving us this wonderful opportunity.
Great. Singapore, another big partner of India in the ASEAN grouping in Southeast Asia, one of the top investors, foreign investors in the Indian economy. And we have a close strategic partnership, and we are doing many things together with Singapore. And we have a big diaspora, especially from historically from Tamil Nadu in South India, and they are flourishing and doing so well. And we also feel proud of them. And we look forward to that cover story that you are going to be doing. And of course, whenever the international media, we hear good things about India, we feel a sense of self-validation also. Because like I said, there's a vested interest group that's been promoting negative stereotypes of India, and we are trying to push back against that, So it's very important to have friends like you. Let me put it that way. Strategically, it's very important for us. Any other voices, what you have seen so far? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Kiran and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. It is my pleasure to be here in India. I always consider Trinidad and Tobago to be my motherland. But I would refer to India as our grandmotherland.
Wow.
Because even though it's good to be with your parents, sometimes it's even more enjoyable to be with your grandparents. The chemistry is different, the dynamic is different. I think two of the things that I take away from this visit is the importance of vision. I think that many developing countries are stuck in a cycle of trying to survive, trying to compete, trying to have this sense of identity. And I think that the colonial era brought a lot of people together. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have Indians, we have Africans, we have Chinese who were brought together by the British. But in being brought together for that whole slavery indentureship period, there was a great sense of loss of identity. In our country of Trinidad and Tobago, the East Indians managed to preserve a great part of that identity. We have 46% thereabout of the population being East Indian. If I'm correct, it's the largest part of the population of the country. But still, there's no sense of national identity as far as I'm concerned. Yes, we're all Trinbagonian. Yes, we love to say that we have Trinidad and Tobago. There are things that we enjoy. But in terms of where do we go forward and how do we bring everybody together, I think that developing countries can learn from the power of vision. India has had so many issues, from economics to its global perception, global perception of India, and I can go on and on. But I think that the KIP program and the engagement of the diaspora, and I think that the focus on the 3 T's that we learned at the Indian Sushma Swaraj Institute the other day, tourism, technology, and trade, are part of the Indian vision to reposition itself in the world. As a matter of fact, just last week, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Caribbean, firstly to Brazil for the G20, and secondly to Guyana quite recently. But that was the first visit in umpteen years. The last time an Indian Prime Minister visited the Caribbean was Indira Gandhi in the 1960s thereabout. So I think that the engagement is definitely part of the vision. The second thing that I will take away is the importance of information exchange. In Trinidad, we have many Bollywood movies, we have many songs, we know some basic Indian foods, and we feel a very great sense of connection to Indian heritage. But I don't know that we have an idea of Indian future. And when it comes to the ongoing development in India, unfortunately, we are very dominated by the Western world. And so our idea of the superpower, while many people are from Fiji and Mauritius and Sri Lanka, and they're on this part of the world, and they have greater influence by Indian media, we are very dominated by the Western world. And therefore, our sense of superpower, our sense of where opportunities are, our sense of where partnerships can be, really is Western or Western in its slant, as opposed to anything Asia related. There's some information about China and Japan and especially Singapore, and there's some admiration for those countries. But I think that if information exchange was greater between India and Trinidad and Tobago, then we can have an appreciation, not just in terms of the Indian connection to the past between Trinidad and India, but definitely in terms of the connection to the future, in terms of the visions aligning themselves and the potential for opportunity.
Wow, thank you. That's a very profound observation. Caribbean is geographically far, but we have very large diaspora there, including in Trinidad. And we are now engaging with the CARICOM, which is the regional association also, to build bridges. And information sharing and exchange is critical, says our friend from Trinidad, and it's a point well taken. Anyone else wants to come in? We are almost closing the show. Yes, ma'am. What are you taking from this trip?
Hello, I'm Anissa from Indonesia. So far I see all the journalists, just make some comments. So maybe this is my question for you.
Okay.
I see, ancient Indian wisdom here is very, respected from all Indians here. But my question is I see a lot of Indians, nowadays, they just go for Hollywood perspective, So my question is, because I have to bring critical aspect because I'm a journalist, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, how important ancient Indian wisdom for Indian themselves? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now reversing the roles, and I'm going to be I'm going to be answering this question, okay? Because this is a tough bunch. These are journalists, okay? So our friend from Indonesia has asked me about whether we are still under some kind of mental slavery to Western ideas and Western institutions, and whether we have not broken them, and whether we are still under some kind of servitude. I think things are changing, both from the level of the government, the messaging, and also the citizens. They're more self-confidence now in who we are, and there's a lot of going back to the ancient glory also, our civilizational greatness and all that. So now we are able to see a lot more of that than before. And slowly, yes, there are still some people who think that, immigrating to Canada or the US or the UK or Europe is the greatest achievement in their lives. There are still some people in developing countries which don't have the highest per capita income. There will still be some outflows and some kind of admiration for richer countries, right? That's natural. But I think if you see our middle classes and the elite class and the ruling establishment and all that, and even ordinary people, slowly they're more nationalistic today than was the case before. So I think some of these practices and our heritage and our institutions, now we are wearing them on our sleeves. We are not shy about them anymore. And our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, put it beautifully. He said, we are not anti-West, but we are non-West. We are a different civilization, right? We don't want, we are not interested in conflict with Western countries. We cooperate with them, but on our terms, So I think things are changing. You will see if you come back in the No India program or in something else in time to come, you will see, more self-confident and expressive India. Last word, anyone would want to come in? Yes, ma'am. What are you taking from this trip?
Namaste, everyone. I'm Hila from Mauritius. So back in the time, I'll go in history. It says that the Indian immigrants, also known as the coolies, they migrated to Mauritius to search of gold. Okay, it's being said that. But what happened today is that because of them, because of their resilience, their hard work, they have transformed our country. they have not found gold there. They have created gold over there. So for me personally, Mauritius is my motherland, and India is my fatherland. Biologically, my mother belongs to Mauritius and my father belongs to India. So what I take back to Mauritius is the resilience, the hard work, the patience. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, thank you. So profound. Viewers, what a fascinating conversation we've had with these 27 media professionals from across the world who have come to India under the Know India program of the Ministry of External Affairs. The standout phrases, one is fatherland, the other is the grand fatherland or grandmotherland. These two things mean a lot, you know, for us because the diaspora is very much part of the civilizational connect that goes back to centuries and even millennia. So we value the diaspora, and that's why we engage with them. The Ministry of External Affairs does it, and even ordinary citizens. The perception of diaspora has changed. There was a time when we used to think that, oh, they abandoned India and they went away, but now it's totally different. It's like you are part of us, you're giving back to us, and we want to also give to you. So it's a complete transformation with the diaspora and India relationship through our diplomacy. And today what we heard from these outstanding media professionals is also that the image and the way India has been projected abroad is also changing, and we expect them to be our unofficial ambassadors going forward and to continue spreading the good word and to keep coming back to India because like it's been said, this is the land that can create gold, and it can actually create value and wealth and prosperity and harmony. So these are big values for which we stand. Democracy, these are all big things in the world today, you know, they are all lacking. Peaceful coexistence. So I think I'll only request all of you viewers to reflect on the amazing things that our friends have shared today in this show, and to go back and to bow before the diaspora. What they have done for us is incomparable, and they will always remain close to our hearts and souls. Thank you, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spreading the word about India, and please come back. This is your home. Thank you so much.